Welcome to FPTV New Releases, where I'm privileged to be joined by the spectacularly talented, unique paper engineer, Matthew Reinhardt. How are you, Matthew?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, mate, it's such a pleasure. We've like savored your books for years at Forbidden Planet, and it's such a pleasure to be able to talk to you, because unlike most of these interviews, which were awesome, very talented artists and filmmakers and whatnot, you are definitely in a category of your own, and it's a pleasure to talk to you about what you specifically do. So we're here to discuss your latest book for Titan, which is Harry Potter, A Pop-Up Guide to Diagon Alley and Beyond.
This big old thing.
Right
there.
Which you can pre-order from the links attached to this interview, and not just pre-order anything, but these are Forbidden Planet, so unique book plate editions signed by Matthew, with some special golden ticket book plates in there, which have Harry Potter's glasses on them.
Yeah, so these actually Forbidden Planet is the only place where I've signed any books this year. So and every once in a while I get, when I sign so many books, every once in a while I draw like the Harry Potter glasses or whatever in there. Making this book. Well, see, I've loved Harry Potter for years and years. I've loved the whole universe, and another chance to be able to play in that universe. Why would I say no? So my first book was a guide to Hogwarts, and that book sort of made like a giant map. And now this one is a totally different sort of style of book. And now what I've been doing with Insight Editions and with Titan, making these books, each one is a book, and you can enjoy it like a pop-up book. So I do pop-up books, right? I'm a paper engineer, right? That's very technical. I don't like people like to call me a paper engineer, but I just make pop-ups. I'm a pop-up book creator. It's very organic what I do. I'm actually, when I'm designing some of these like really elaborate sort of pop-ups.
Amazing.
When I'm designing these, it all starts from just like my hands and just paper. Like if you saw, you can't see what my desk looks down below, but it's a mess because I'm currently working on upcoming projects. And so it's just cutting and folding paper and figuring out how things work. I don't work in the computer in the beginning and sort of model things. Everything is like by hand. And so it's a mess. It's a mess. In fact, in the beginning of every project, like there are weeks and weeks where it's just a mess in my studio. I have to always like clean it up all the time. And it's just cutting and folding paper and seeing how things work. And after I sort of come to a design that I like, it's all, and it's all in one color. There isn't a lot of drawing. This is not even finished, but like, I may make something that comes out something like this, look, it's just structure, right?
Yeah.
Then I start to refine it, sketch on it. And then, I have to take the pop-ups apart like so many times, and trace all the pieces, rebuild it, so it's a lot of back and forth. It's kind of like a movie in a lot of ways, in that, you start out with concept and you kind of gradually go through to the final.
I mean, it's such a hugely intricate process, and I've been fascinated when going through your work and some of you did that great World of Warcraft book, and some of the other things that you've done, which is another Titan. It's another one you published in Titan, which is also available from Forbidden Planet still, by the way. But it's such incredibly intricate work. What was your journey to becoming a pop-up guy? How did that all happen?
It's so weird. So, like this isn't planned. Every time I tell people, like, this was not something I was sitting there going, this is what I want to do. In fact, I didn't even really, pop-ups weren't really that much in my head. Even growing up, I had one, and it was a dinosaur pop-up. And I've since I did a big dinosaur book when I was younger in this. And so dinosaurs were really big when growing up for me. But I was always drawing them, and I was always like making them out of cardboard, but there was never like, I'm going to be that pop-up book guy. I started out actually as I wanted to be a toy designer. So, but I have a really weird way to even getting into design. I always was an artist. Like I said, I was always drawing, I was always making stuff. But my parents were real cool about me being an artist at the time. And, they wanted me to be a doctor because my dad was a doctor. They said, you'll survive. They don't want you to be a starving artist. And you know, look, I was kind of a lame student. I didn't really, you know, I didn't research as much as I could have early on. And I just went to school and I did very well studying biology and studying science. But after my undergraduate school, where I studied biology, I also took a lot of art classes as well. I tried to like mix things as much as I could. Got out of school and I actually got into medical school. And I took a year off, lived in New York, and I worked for I worked for this company called the Eye Bank for Sight Restoration, and which is like eye bank. So I went, it was pretty gruesome. I used to procure donor tissue for
Wow.
cornea transplants.
Okay.
You know, you go to the morgue and take out corneas
Yeah.
from cadavers. So when I did that, you know, and I was working in hospitals and doing stuff like
So,
that
so
year.
you were physically harvesting the corneas from
Yes, yes. You say
right.
it so
Wow.
much.
Okay.
It's not like, you know, oh, you popped out eyeballs, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did that for a year and in New York City, and you know, just out of undergraduate school, and I realized I did, it was very good work that I was doing, but it just wasn't right for me. I'd always wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to be able to do something creative. So after that year, and I was set to go to med school, I had to tell my parents I can't go. Um, I want to do something creative. They, you know, got mad at first, but then they kind of turned, you know, the corner and they said, listen, we just want you to be happy. And we also want to not pay for you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did some research. I found out stuff, you know, that I could do different jobs. And one of them was industrial design. I thought that that's a really, you know, sort of, that is something that is, I could do, that I would be able to support myself. There were a lot of opportunities in that field. And so but of course, you know, and industrial design is like the design of like like all kinds of products, whether TVs or chairs or cars or, you know, glasses. I wanted to be a toy designer because I'm a huge toy fan, and I'm especially a Star Wars, first and foremost, Star Wars fan. So I'll have all the 3 3/4 inch figures. I'm also a Transformers fan, a huge Transformer. Like I still collect both of these lines of toys. So I have thousands of Star Wars figures, only 3 3/4 because otherwise I would be out of house and home.
Yeah.
I'm only allowed to, and then Transformers, I have thousands, and
Yeah.
I've collected since '84. So I love toys, and I really wanted to work at Hasbro. So I finished industrial design school in New York. Then I was about to start with toy design, and I was just doing freelance with somebody, Robert Sabuda, who makes a lot of pop-up books. And I was helping him just on the side. And he said, listen, I need a little help. Do you think you could, you know, take a little bit more time freelancing to help me out? And that's kind of where I got started in it. It was a fluke. And as I started helping him, I realized like, I'm kind of getting this, you know, like I'm kind of understanding. So I was able to sell my first book within a couple of years. And then we were able to sell even more projects and make them as project books. And, you know, we collaborated on some, and it was something I stumbled into, but I found that I really enjoyed. And the thing that I like the most about what I do is that I feel like I'm always evolving and learning something new all the time. Like the things that I've done, you know, the mechanisms I've made, in the past, like I look at them and go, I would never do that now. You know, like I love that evolution. I think most artists do, you know, like to be able to understand, you learn new things and kind of break down the rules you learn, and then you make new ones, and then you break those rules and you kind of go a different, you know, so it's an interesting field. It's, you know, and I also, you know, illustrate, I draw and paint and whatever, but most of the things that I do now, I'm doing dimensionally. And I sometimes refer to what I do as like three-dimensional illustration. So, and paper and pop-ups, whatever. But it was something I didn't plan it. I didn't even know, you know, it's amazing and it's great. And I love my form, to be able to express myself this way. I think it engages both my scientific side, you know, like that that side of it, but also, you know, my creative side. You know, how can I make that work?
That was exactly what I was going to ask you, based upon what you just said, based upon your journey. It seems to me it's that marriage of, you know, art and structure, which is that's the medical thing, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
and all that physical structure, even back to harvesting those cornets, I can see the through line there. So with regard to Harry Potter, what was it that drew you to Potter as something you wanted to play around with three-dimensional design?
Oh, well, I mean, there's so many places to explore within the Harry Potter Wizarding World universe. Um, and, you know, look, anytime that I can play in any sort of licensed property that I really love, like, it's just, I want to be involved with it. I want to create something for, that's what I mainly, I like, I want to create something for Harry Potter, whatever it could be. And there had already been one, there were a couple Harry Potter pops in the past, but they were more story related. But I wanted to explore the places, and I think that that's, you know, I think there's a lot more opportunities there. So with Diagon Alley, you know, it's about exploring these places, these, you know, and rather than retelling the story, which, look, we can either see the movies, we can read the books. Like, this is like, I want to go in there and see for myself at my own pace with my own story, and then, you know, relive some of those moments, see some of these things, and add in those details that, you know, you don't see on the screen, or sometimes you don't necessarily, you know, remember them in the reading. So that's what this, you know, making a book like this, and what you know, what we do in this book too is there's a lot of, like, sort of explorable moments where you can
Yeah,
look inside
fantastic.
buildings. You know, there's things that, you know, that are coming up and happening.
Yeah.
Let's see, where is that? Yeah, like, there's, you know, like owls and characters, and for it to be surprising, because that's when you're in Diagon Alley, like, you're surprised about anything that's going to happen, right?
Yes.
So you pull something and you think that one thing's going to happen, but all these other things happen. And so that's what's, you know, kind of making magic in paper for someone else to be able to explore. That's what I'm want to do.
Yeah, and it's such beautiful work that you do. So with regard to Potter and Diagon Alley, what, out of all the different, after all the different places you visited for this particular book, which is the one that's your favorite?
See, that's hard. Like, well, my favorite, you know, actually, well, I mean, engineering wise, I don't know. Let me see. I really love, well, the Ministry of Magic, I think, was, like, just because all of the levels that are in it and everything that's in there, and it's so mysterious. There's all these places. You go into a room and it's not even a room. You know, there are all these creatures and characters that exist within it. In fact, you know, when we were making this pop, which is the Ministry of Magic,
so good.
First of all, when I was even doing the research just to try to get a space, you know, for that, just trying to understand the architecture of it, which is completely it's unknowable. Even in looking at the movies, even at looking at them, because it's always changing. You know, this is a magical place; it's never really the same. I think that was the most interesting and the most difficult one to sort of reinterpret. Because who knows? I think it's constantly changing. And it's such a beautifully designed, at least in the movies, they're beautifully designed. So, you know, you can't get every aspect of it, but you try. And, you know, I think in the trying, we had a lot of success. So I think it's fun.
And moving forward, is there a kind of holy grail for you of a particular universe you'd like to play in and to produce a puppet for?
Well, that's hard, because I'm very lucky. Like, over the years, ever since I did my first Star Wars book, I have been able to play in all these different, you know, universes, and you know, everything from Star Wars to Harry Potter to gosh, I mean, Marvel, Transformers. I love, you know, like, I've done all these things. For me, rather than other universes, well, I don't know. That's a tough one. You know, I get to play in Marvel now. I've done DC Comics. Gosh, there's so many of them anymore that I've been through. So I don't know. I can't say. you know, I like things, I like a lot of nonfiction as well. So if I was able to go back and do more historical work, whether it's, you know, going to visit the ancient, you know, Egyptians and making, you know, pyramids of Giza, you know, like all that, that to me is very exciting. But, you know, when things come up, I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of things. So I'm a big sort of nerd about, you know, comics and science fiction and, you know, superheroes and stuff like that. So there's always open options.
Yeah. Something I don't think you've done it yet. Something I'd love to see you do would be the De Laurentiis 1980 Flash Gordon movie. I think you do
Oh,
an amazing job
whoa.
with that.
Now, if we could really like go to these places, yeah, well, there are other things that aren't necessarily, you know, more broad audience, but, you know, I loved Heavy Metal, the
Yeah.
magazine
Oh,
when you were there.
yes, of course. Yeah.
And, you know, it was always that magazine on the rack that you weren't really supposed to, you know, read, but it was like beautiful. The art was incredible. To be able to recreate some of that would be amazing. If I could get really geeky, like, you know, even Gundam robot stuff, like,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of, oh, you know what? I do know what I'd love to do. I would love to do Godzilla, like
Oh,
classic
yes.
Godzilla,
Classic.
any
Yeah.
kaiju, you know, that would be amazing. And a lot of like Japanese anime robot, any genre in there, whether it's like whatever Mazinger or Mazinger or however you pronounce it. I never know how to pronounce it. He was Transor Z here in the States back in the early Voltron, all of those sort of storylines, even though I think that they're more interesting when they're told they're not the translated versions, but they're the Japanese original versions, that would all be incredible.
Yeah.
Like amazing.
Matthew, you do such a great job with those. I can really see that. Yeah, that would be
That would
so
be
lovely.
fun.
Yeah.
It would be fun.
So thanks so much for spending this 10 minutes with us. We were here talking about Harry Potter, a pop-up guide to Diagon Alley and beyond. Right there, which you can order from the links right now attached to this interview to Forbidden Planet's one and only unique signed bookplate edition from Matthew, which he signed for us. Thank you very much.
Yes,
You order them right here, and it really is a beautiful piece of work and such an amazing gift for the holiday season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. This was a lot of fun. You got me all excited now about doing new books.
Right on. Yeah, exactly. We look forward to talking to you again, mate. And thanks for sparing the time.
Of course.
All the best, Matthew. Take care.
Same to you. Bye-bye.